hot button topic online. Keyboard commandos go nuts when you bring up leasebacks and all the pitfalls and everything, but I don't think a lot of people talk about the benefits.
Welcome back, everyone. I've got Adam back again. He is going to talk to us about the benefits of leaseback options and how that can really help basically negate the price of flight training, right?
Yeah, well, we can talk about everything about leasebacks. It's kind of a hot button topic online. Keyboard commandos go nuts when you bring up leasebacks and, all the pitfalls and everything, but I don't think a lot of people talk about the benefits.
Right.
And yeah, how it can basically pay for you to learn to fly. I guess the best thing to start with is kind of why leaseback. We've got several different kinds of people that have come through and done a leaseback with First Landings in particular, and others that I've known in the industry that are in the leaseback business. So, first you've got, I think the best example was a father who came in here with 2 kids, and all 3 of them wanted to learn to fly.
Right.
He decided, well, I'm going to be spending a lot of money here. Why not buy an airplane? We can learn in our own airplane,
right,
and put it to work while it's here. They started with 1. That went so well, they added 2 more. By the time they were all done, we had 3 airplanes here that he was leasing back. He finished his ratings. The 2 kids, one of them finished through private. The other one finished through a CFI and actually was an instructor here for a while and is now an air traffic controller running the routes going over the Atlantic between us and Europe. But, in his case, he wasn't doing it to make money. He was doing it to offset his costs and learning to fly. And the bonus was the first one went so well and he was making money and flying for nothing that he got 2 more. And I think, every month I was cutting him several $1,000s in checks, and, he was pretty happy. The very first aircraft we had here was obviously a leaseback because I didn't have the money to buy a plane.
Right.
That situation, he was actually kind of more of an angel investor. He saw the idea I had, liked it, and was like, sure, I'll spend 120 grand just to roll the dice and see if you can make something of this. Obviously, his motivation was more to kind of see if a kid out of college could be successful. And, if he walked away making something great, if not, he got to have a little fun. I think 120 to him was kind of pocket change.
Right.
But in that case, that lease was very different from the previous one in that he got paid X amount of dollars per hour. All the costs, it was essentially triple net, right? All the costs were on First Landings Aviation to cover the insurance, the hangar, and everything. And every hour it flew, he got paid. Now, if it didn't fly, he didn't get paid, but he wasn't out of pocket either. At the end of it, he was very happy. I mean, he made better than 20% on his investment, and he walked away going, of all the kind of fun investments he's made, this was probably the most successful one.
Right.
And then we've got, the other kind of big time investors who, buy 40, 50 airplanes because they've got deep pockets and they're putting them out at a bunch of different flight schools.
Right.
So we've worked with those guys as well, both good and bad. Because usually they're looking at only the bottom line. And with us, we like keeping high quality equipment, keeping everything nice, new, and spending the money we need to keep them maintained to the highest standard and looking nice. That's
right.
What customers want. Good to deal with, but they're kind of, sometimes difficult when it comes to, all right, we need to spend this money to make it right. So different avenues. I think as students look at it and, they're going to be watching this going, how can I make it pay for learning to fly?
Right.
Depending on the school you're with or who you're working with, an independent CFI, definitely several things you want to consider. How big is the school? One, when we started out with 1 plane, we were lucky to fly 30 hours a month, and that's probably in most cases not going to cover the cost if the costs are stuck on you. Whereas today, we're doing, we're bumping up 1,000 hours a month.
Yeah.
Routinely. So sticking another plane here, it's going to get decent number of hours on it, especially if we're not going to take a plane that doesn't meet kind of our fleet standard. So known quantity, how much is it going to fly? Know that anywhere you go to lease it, if they're making you promises, they're not worth, the paper they're written on, unless it's a contract. If they're going to guarantee you hours in a contract, great. But if they're telling you, oh yeah, we're going to do 100 hours a month, but it's not written down, it's a guaranteed payment, yeah, good luck. What else? So there are a couple different type of leases when you look at how the costs are shared, right? And this is where I think a lot of the keyboard commandos go off on tangents, because some leasebacks that we've done, and probably the most typical in the industry, is the owner of the plane or the lessor is stuck with all the costs, right? And the flight school is essentially a management company. So my job is to put butts in the seat and make it fly, generate revenue. I'm going to take a cut of that, whether it's 15, 20, 25%, just depending on what we negotiate. The remaining 80% or whatever of the revenue covers the costs, and at the end, whatever's left over is what the owner is going to get at the end of the month. If you're putting up the hours and the flight school is doing its job, it can be very lucrative, because the more risk you take on, obviously, the greater the returns are. But if you're sticking it at a school where it's not going to fly, or it sits, or whatever, or maintenance, you pick the wrong type of plane where maintenance bills and eat into it, and it's sitting a lot because of that. You end up losing, because now you got to cover all the other bills, insurance, hangar. So those are all things to consider as you look at different flight schools with that type of lease. I've had owners that take on that lease with us that are very happy, but when we're doing 110 hours a month, it's great. And we have all our maintenance in-house, so we contracted rates, so they kind of know what to expect when a 100-hour comes up, or an annual. I mean, it's all easy to budget in. So, and we've got known quantities with our planes. We know what they cost to operate and everything. So it works out quite well. On the other end of the spectrum, the big dogs that want their X number of hours flown a month, they want their X amount of dollars, and guess what? All the expenses are on the flight school. Again, we can take on those kind of leases because we can put up the hours. Smaller schools, if you're only doing 20 hours a month, but you've got a guaranteed minimum of 60 hours a month, well, then, I mean, the school's going to go out of business, and ultimately that lessor is going to be pretty upset that he's got to take back a plane and find another home for it. So things to consider.
I mean, a 20% ROI, though, from, when you said 20%, I'm like, wow, 20% anywhere nowadays.
Well, and honestly, it's even better than that with the new tax rules and everything that have come through the bills that passed. The 100% depreciation has gone on again. So, I've got a few students looking to buy a brand new Cirrus for $1 million, but they've got the income to offset that $1 million. So right away, let's say they're at the 28% tax bracket, right? They're going to get $250,000 back in a tax refund.
Right. So
now your initial investment's only $750,000, and if you're going to generate, 20% on $1 million, well, that's what, 25% on $750,000 or thereabouts. So suddenly, it's looking like a pretty good investment.
Mm-hmm. Wait, does that mean that we're actually going to get a Cirrus?
We're working on it.
That'd be pretty nice. I miss flying a Cirrus. So
yeah, I mean, it's I've got tax specialists we work with, and I've put all my leaseback owners in touch with, just so they can take advantage of all those things. And you want to be actively involved in the management of the plane, so we make sure all our owners are actively involved with how we're scheduling it, maintenance, and everything else, so they can meet those tax advantage rules and everything. But I mean, it is a big plus, to a lot of the guys, and that's why they look into do it to start with.
I mean, part of what we initially talked about with this is, you could potentially get your rating for free. Right?
You can get paid to get it.
Yeah, you can get paid to get it. It makes it even better.
Yeah.
Some of that right there has its own, intrinsic value. I mean, the national average is what, 80 and change, 85 hours
Something
or
like
so?
that. Yeah, I mean, I know that's the national average. Ours is somewhere around 60 for private pilot. How many months are you going to take to get that? A lot of them are taking 4 to 6 months.
Right.
But if your plane's generating $4,000 a month over that 6 month, I mean, there's your 24,000 to cover your, private plus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely feasible. Now, other things to consider. It's one thing to buy a new plane when the guy comes and goes, "Oh, I want to buy a new Cirrus, or I want to buy a new Piper 100i and lease it." It's another when they come to you and go, "Oh, I've got this 1965 Cherokee 140 I want to lease to you." And we go, "Well, how's it equipped? How's it look?" We want, obviously, we'd consider it if it's new paint, newer avionics, kind of what the customer wants. But you've also got to consider it, how old's the engine, how many hours you got on it, what other maintenance items might it be lacking. And that's where, it's a little bit of roll of the dice for the owner, lessor that's buying it, because sure, you could buy it 200 hours in, you're getting a couple good checks, but then bam, you're hit with, oh shit, the engine's making metal.
Yep.
Well, now you got, $40,000 to $60,000 bill, and your plane's going to be parked for a couple months while we source an engine and get it back in there and flying. And you're stuck with all the bills while it sits.
It's getting expensive pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. And that's where, I always tell the lessors and owners that you've got to have kind of a stash, set aside money every month from what you're making so that you do have a rainy day fund. You don't want to be caught, by surprise and be like, oh, I got to come up suddenly now with $1,500 a month to cover hangar and insurance. And I don't have it because I was planning on the income.
I booked that nice vacation instead of using the money.
That's right. I've had a lot of guys like that. Oh, we're going to the Bahamas and chartering a jet. But what do you mean I got a bill?
Yep.
So definitely all things to consider. And I do a lot of consulting for these guys that want to lease back, whether it's here or other schools, to kind of just get second opinions on contracts and everything else.
I mean, wealth of information. You've been doing this quite a long time. A&P with your IA, so you know all the ins and outs of the maintenance as well as, the actual business aspect of it. So those are some really good points for people to understand that, the average freelance instructor isn't going to have all of those extra points. They're not going to have, hangar and an actual office. Most of the time they're kind of just
if they don't have in-house maintenance or anything. Now you're stuck at the beck and call of a third party.
Yep.
Which means you're on a list to get fixed. So there's no expediency to that, and honestly, costs run up and everything else, overruns, and so I mean that's one of the big advantages is our in-house maintenance and contracted rates. And we've got it turned 100 hour. I mean it's quick. Usually within a day. We've got it turned with 3 of us working on it.
Yep.
So,
is there anything else you want to say for Leasebacks?
No, I mean, I'm hoping, if people have questions, throw it in the comments. I'll kind of keep an eye on that, answer stuff or reach out. Happy to help and, help grow the industry. And with the new sport pilot rules, there's going to be a lot more opportunity, I think, for leasing back sport planes and everything else because the demand, I think, is going to be there.
I was speaking to somebody the other day that was interested in doing a lease back on another Tecnam because they see how busy the 2006 T is.
Well, that's because of our great pricing, our current promotion, right?
Yeah.
Our time building at $199 an hour, you can't beat. And when a plane's doing 15 hours a day, people take notice.
Yeah. I mean, that thing, I don't see it on the ground very much at all.
No.
Normally when it's getting an oil change and 100 hours and
that's about it. Yeah.
It's right back up again. So, well, thanks very much for everything.
Yeah, definitely.
The channel appreciates you. I appreciate you and I appreciate the support. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Take care and stay safe, everyone.